I remember her hands around my throat, looking up at the ceiling above her twin extra-long bed, the sound of Save Tonight by Eagle Eye Cherry playing faintly in the background, the empty bottles of UV Blue and Captain Morgan on my rapist's dresser, and her voice as she repeated my name in a low rumble. I was assaulted at a party. I don't remember everything because I believe that I was drugged and possibly given alcohol without my consent. I just sort of remember little things and little details after I started to feel confused and not totally sober. It wasn't until about a half a year later, like 5 or 6 months later, that I started to suspect sexual assault and rape.
She was like, there's a rumor going around that I slept with this person, and I want to tell you that I absolutely did not. I got in contact with them, and they showed me a video of Alaina being really drunk, being really uncoordinated. And I had to be the one to show her that video and be like, we need to talk. She was just like shocked. She was like shut down. She was like, no, this didn't happen. And then as time went on, she was like, this makes sense. There are moments I don't remember of that night. She told me it was a rumor, and I was unfortunately the one to be like, it's something darker.
My name felt like a reminder. It felt almost like I had left my own body and was watching myself through a camera lens or from underwater or in a hazy dream. I went on Facebook and I just changed my first name to Alaina, exactly how it's spelled now, and I looked at it and I really liked it, and then I went to go change it back because I figured people would be confused. And Facebook notified me that you are only allowed to change your name once within a 90-day period, and that I would have to wait 90 days to change it back. And I kind of stared at my computer screen like, oh shit. Well then, I guess I will have to figure this one out.
When Alaina posted her new name on Facebook without telling me, I, like a lot of our friends, was really surprised, was really hurt that it would be a public announcement before talking to people. And then she explained that it had been a mishap and that she was trying to figure out what it would look like on Facebook, what her name would look like together. And I mean, she could have written it on a piece of paper, but she chose to use Facebook instead. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. It wasn't as hard as it must have been for some people, but I am a really strong believer of that we only have so much time on this planet.
I didn't realize it right away, but I was really taking back ownership of my own story and of my body and of my personhood. And so I was reinforcing this small choice every single time I interacted with a person, and I didn't have the ability to make that choice when I was assaulted. But here I was 2 years later, reinforcing my choices in every single situation and telling people how they should refer to me and who I wanted to be. And I remember when I was first changing my name, I had quite a lot of dreams where people would be calling me by my old name, where people would slip up. I would have dreams where my rapist would be in the dream calling me by my old name, telling me that people were not going to, use my new one, telling me that this choice was not going to change what had happened. And I would have these nightmares, and It wasn't until most people were using my correct name and calling me Alaina most of the time or all of the time that I started to actually heal from it.
So there's a few different ways you can look at identity disruption, two different levels. So in one sense, we each have an identity. It's who we are. It's who we carry with us into different situations. It's how we understand ourselves, how we present ourselves to the world. So we tend to have ideas and feelings about who that person is. I tend to think I'm a pretty good person, somewhat active and powerful person. But when we move into interaction, sometimes those identities are challenged. We're treated like maybe we're a bad person or we're powerless or that we're a weak or unintelligent person. Those things disrupt how we see ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. On the second level, you could also think about identity disruption in terms of we all have a series of identities. I'm a professor, I'm a wife, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. These are all the different identities we carry with us through our interactions. So we have our persona, ourselves could be disrupted in our experiences with violence, but also our understandings of what it means to be a girlfriend or a partner or a wife can be disrupted when we experience sexual violence in our interpersonal relationships.
It took her a long time to open up after the sexual assault and just talk about how she was feeling. So I had no idea that her name, how she felt around it. I had no idea that her name reminded her of it and that it hurt her until she talked about it more openly.
So I thought a lot about this legal name change in which it's somewhat of a clean slate. I mean, there's no erasing trauma, there's no erasing our histories. But at least when we have that self or that persona that I said we move through the world with, it gives us some sense of stability. By giving that a new name, that could lead, I can imagine that would aid in some of these types of recoveries from identity disruption. Also, it may work as a kind of symbolic meaning change where people can try and reconstruct who they were separate from that person who was victimized.
After she changed her name, she really started sharing her experiences and sharing her story to help others. And I think that name change really helped her come to terms with herself, and then her new, while she still takes care of herself, her new goal went from how can I survive this to how can I help other people survive this.
There are still times when I have a hard time dealing with what happened. There are still times when I have nightmares about it, and there are times when the political environment brings it up, and writing about it publicly as a survivor certainly brings it up. It's really, there are times when after I do some sort of writing piece or interview about it, I'll just text Macy and be like, just so you know, I really love you. And it's because I'm thinking about how much she supported me. This past summer, I really just felt like I wanted to ask her to marry me, and a lot of our friends and family have been asking me why the heck I haven't asked her to marry me yet, which is a good question because we've been together for almost 10 years, but I felt like it was the right time. I very clumsily got down on one knee. Sand is very hard to get down on one knee on. And I stayed on one knee for 10 minutes because my note was so long that it took me 10 minutes to read. And we were both crying our eyes out the whole time. I didn't put anything in the letter about what we had gone through with the assault because I wanted it to just be about the positivity, but I couldn't help but think that there's so many extra layers to our story than just the happy times. I just remember feeling so happy and complete that I'd been able to do this. It was really wonderful, and all of the people who have showered us with love and congratulations since, it's just a testament to how much our friends and family have supported us, and a lot of them know what we went through and that we survived this, and it's incredible to see that support, especially as a gay couple, because it's not an easy road, even in Massachusetts.
So violence between lesbians does not tend to be taken as seriously as between opposite sex relationships, particularly when the woman is the victim, the man is the perpetrator. That's how we tend to think of these things, and it's really problematic for that reason. For every victim, survivor, every path looks different. For every 2 victim survivors, there's no one in the same path.
Name changes are a lot more common than people think. They can be tied to identity. They really can be a vehicle for positive life change and for people to heal and grow and live the lives that they want to live, that they're comfortable living.
It was more than had to abandon it, but it was just abandon. Sounds like a desperate act of leaving something behind, but it sounds like an apology or an excuse.
I think choosing your own name is very powerful.
I was abused as a child and changed my name when I went to college. So now when someone calls me by my legal name, it gives me
I didn't know I
anxiety.
was super abnormal and no longer going by my birth name, the name I was called during my most severe trauma.
My birth name scares me to hear it. I cringe when people call me by that.
It was a bit strange at first to think of myself with that name, but now I find it weird to think of myself with the
I
old name.
preferred those nicknames to my given name, as they help me keep normal me and broken me as
So
two
this name
distinct
change,
people.
although I don't really see it as a change, but as a giving up of my past identity as a victim and starting into a new life as someone alive, not a survivor, has meant more to me
I would
than
talk
can
to
put
and
into
encourage
words.
myself to do things with that name until one day I realized why
My given name being
affirmations
my
didn't
real
sound
name
right
and applying
were
to the
actually
real,
positive.
broken me, while the nicknames apply to the fully
I would
functional
talk to and
facade that
encourage
everyone
myself
I
gets
to
love
do
my name
things
now.
with
I
that
feel
name
like I
until
belong to
one
it,
day
and it
I
belongs to
realized
me.
why my
I've gained a
Which I didn't
great
affirmations
feel
feeling
didn't
of
like
sound
freedom.
right.
Freedom of choice and of being in control of my own life
How
and my
about
independence.
I choose to rename myself, and that's been
It
empowering.
was a real life symbol of cutting the cords between my abusers and me.